Hello and welcome to Maputo in Mozambique. I'm Chris Bishop and welcome to the CNBC Africa EMEM debate. We're here to talk about one of the great stories of Africa, the idea that Mozambique, currently ranked by the United Nations as the fourth poorest country in the world, could one day become a rich, wealth-creating, energy-producing nation. Now, there's a lot of issues around this, and I've got an esteemed panel here to discuss this, starting with my left here, Nelson Ocuane from ENH, the National Oil Company. I have Antonio Manhica, the Chief Operating Officer, the Mozambican Mining Exploration Company. Next to him, I have Manuel Caldeira, Senior Partner at Caldeira Limited, give us the legal aspect. And across there, from CTA, the business organization, I have Agostinho Vuma. Just to start off with, just very briefly, each of you, just give me, from the heart, your idea of where this Mozambican energy story is going. Starting with yourself, Nelson.
It's going towards a leadership of energy producer in the region, and then to play global relevance as a net natural gas export.
Antonio Manhica, from a mining point of view.
Thank you very much. The nature has given us such a great value, in a sense that what we have in the country, mostly if we're talking about the energy sector, is coal of high quality that may take the country to high level in terms of development.
You, sir?
I feel that the country is going in the right direction. I feel in my office more and more players coming to explore the opportunities, not only the big players, but also service providers. And I feel because we are involved in the legal reform on behalf of the government, so we feel that the government is doing things in order to improve the investment climate also for this sector.
Agostinho.
My perspective will be on contribution by our SMEs, whereby we need to ensure that there is a business linkage to guarantee that all our SMEs, which have asked, they do something, we guarantee local content on it. So that's my view.
Now, a lot of this is going to be governed by the petroleum bill, which is been through the public consultation period and is currently going through Parliament. It should be out in the next few months. What do you think the government is trying to achieve with this bill? Just to start off with you, Nelson.
The government is trying to accommodate the issues related to infrastructure development to produce the natural gas. The first law was approved in '81, and there was amendment in 2001 to allow that every international and national companies that want to invest in oil and gas, they would do in a same base. And then today, with the challenge of huge discoveries that we have in the Vuma area, the government had to go through a consultation process with all the stakeholders, and then try to accommodate the issues that can enable the development of natural gas.
Speaking of issues, Agostinho, private business has voiced some of its problems with the bill. What would you say are the biggest difficulties you see ahead?
The issue of natural resources, not only energy, it's a kind of new in our country, whereby you find our SMEs not well prepared to deal with it. So one of the great challenges that we guarantee that the training for our labor, but also ensure that the financing is available. So one of the big challenges is financing problem, to have our SMEs well equipped with all necessary aspects looking at this new experience of oil and gas.
I mean, just talk about the training aspect of it, Antonio. I mean, there are stipulations laid down in the petroleum bill for companies, foreign investors to come in to train a certain number of Mozambicans. You know, in the mining sector, this is often put into agreements in Africa, but it's very difficult to make sure it happens. What are your fears?
I think, yes, I would agree with you. It's not a question that can be considered also easy to implement. But if we look at the way the government is dealing with this aspect of development, I think we are in the right direction. You will see that there are a number of high-level universities and also institutes that are being created to deal with this particular aspect of having manpower prepared for this new development. Remember that the development in the mining sector is a new one here in Mozambique, but still I think the role that the government is playing is very good. If we look at the private sector itself, they're also playing this role, and we're quite happy that they understand that unless they are partner of the government in training the skilled people, they will not reach the level that they would like to attain.
Mr. Caldeira, I mean, one of the things I've read about this petroleum bill is that one of the provisions is that a number of shares from companies are to be put onto the Mozambican Stock Exchange to be bought by Mozambicans. I think it's a great idea. It sounds very good. But there can be difficulties with this, particularly from a legal aspect. What difficulties do you see?
Yeah, the first difficulty is that there are not many Mozambicans with the financial capabilities to acquire those shares. In terms of drafting legislation or practical aspects to implement, that's not a major problem. The thing is, in terms of the law, this requires that the shares are sold at the market value in the stock exchange, and our stock exchange is very new, not much experienced, so I see some difficulties in implementing these particular pieces of legislation.
So, Agostinho, one of the things you've raised is about procurement. One of the lessons that neighboring country, South Africa, can teach this country is that it has the same kind of rules in terms of black empowerment. Often they're very difficult to enforce. People can get around them, there can be corruption, there can be all kinds of things going on. What are your concerns about this procurement that's been?
Well, we also have a big dream on having prioritization in terms of looking our local SMEs, but we don't look at the experience of South Africa, specifically black empowerment, as a good experience for Mozambique because of this historical situation and so on. But we believe that one of the role is that the government must play a contribution for the realities, and also having a good attention on this issue of Dutch disease. So on a procurement side, what we lobbying here as a private sector is that we ensure that all the mega projects, those are playing a role in the country, they can ensure to have the procurement plan in time. We look at the 5 to 10 years because, as I said before, we are having a new experience in terms of oil and gas when we come to this issue.
Mr. Caldeira, I'm going to ask you this one as well. One of the concerns that's been raised is about capital gains tax. People saying that wherever shares in foreign invested companies are sold around the world, they must still pay capital gains tax here. I mean, that sounds like a very tall order, if you ask me.
Yes, you have to understand that the country has in the past, didn't have experience. All of a sudden, we have these mega projects in the country, and the government realized that it could get better benefits on this. The legislation was not exactly aligned to these interests of the country to get better benefits on these mega projects. So we gave advice in the office to some private entities. And we had to tell that strictly, in terms of the law, it's not easy to say that the government could follow this route without changing legislation. But on the other hand, one has to understand that, in fact, the projects are in the country, the investors are operating in the country, and there is this pressure from the people, that the government and the people should benefit from these projects. So I understand, and I know now the government is reviewing the legislation in order to accommodate these national interests.
Antonio Manhica, you're a mining man. You know the difficulties sometimes matching mining with foreign investment. How confident or otherwise are you that Mozambique is getting it right in terms of this gas industry, energy industry that's about to open up?
I'll put the matter in this way. We are really very, I would say, very lucky that the kind of product we are looking at in Mozambique is one of those products that are not readily available in the region. I would speak particularly in terms of coal, the kind of coal that we have. We're talking mostly about metallurgical coal, which is a coal that is used for the smelters, the coal that is used in the high industries that you don't have in the region. So because of that, we believe that the foreign investors will be coming to Mozambique to invest and looking for that kind of product. Obviously, still we have to work for and create a better environment. We cannot just say that we have the product and that's enough, and that everyone will come here. We need to invest in create the climate that will be adequate for the investors to feel comfortable in investing in this country.
Okay, we're going to talk more about that climate and also infrastructure in the second half. Do stay with us in Maputo and Mozambique. We're going to a quick commercial break. Welcome back to Maputo and Mozambique. You're with the CNBC Africa EMEC debate. Here we're talking about the prospects of Mozambique becoming a large and wealthy energy-producing nation. I have a panel of experts here. Now, one of the big problems that we have here facing you, Nelson, as the national oil company, is infrastructure, the lack of. I mean, we've been hearing at this conference that the roads need repairing, there's millions being poured into the railway. A lot of people say maybe we're putting the cart before the horse in the fact that the infrastructure isn't ready for a big industry like this. What do you say to that?
To be ready, we need to have the opportunity. And the only way to build this kind of infrastructure is to have a client, and the client are the project. I don't think that we are putting the horse, the wheel in front of the horse. What we are doing is to do the right thing. We need to build infrastructure to bring the project or to enable the project. And that will help all the time. And then the private investment, the model that we have is a public and private partnership to go through that. No one will invest single dollar if you don't have a client that make the infrastructure feasible. So what we need to do is to plan ahead, have a vision, and make the appropriate investment on infrastructure to have the project rolling at a more competitive way.
Agostinho, on behalf of private business, this infrastructure story is not going to go away. The state coffers maybe can't afford to give everything that Mozambique needs. There's been talk here at this conference that private money is being encouraged into building roads and building rail and what have you. How likely is it, do you think, that private business will get involved?
Well, it's a good opportunity for the private sector in Mozambique. As has been said before, it was approved 3 years ago as a PPP law in Mozambique, which is a very good instrument to speed up, the relation between the government, because we also defend that is to encourage that doing it has a concessions from the government to the private sector is very important too, and whereby we think that sovereign fund created by these opportunities for today and tomorrow's generation is very important, looking on the infrastructures.
Mr. Caldeira, you're a lawyer, you're dealing with a lot of foreign investors, obviously looking at Mozambique. How likely is it that this country can sell this idea of investing in infrastructure? Because there is talk now that it's a hard sell right now. Basel III, a lot of banks don't want to get involved in these 20-year projects. It's perhaps not as sexy as other kind of investment. What are you picking up at the moment?
No, I can tell you that we have more and more clients in our office that come and they are interested in infrastructure projects, especially using this new PPP legislation that gives some preference rights if the projects are of private initiative. They can do that in partnership of the government, and they can take advantage of that in different areas, in ports, in railways, in roads, all types of infrastructure projects. We feel in the office that more and more investors are using, and also some of them are using the advantage of their governments, the facilities that are offered by the governments that give concession credits for them, and then they can enter in these type of projects.
Antonio Manhica, I mean, your mining ambit also includes the Motis project in Tet province, the coal project. Infrastructure is almost a bigger problem for you than it is for most industries. How worried are you? How concerned are you that there won't be enough?
I would be very happy if I had today my Sena railway and the port with the capacity that the mines themselves are capable of delivering at this time. But of course, we have pitfalls when we develop this kind of project, especially because we have to think that it's something that we're doing for the first time in the country. So when you look at investment in the mine, you're looking at the private investment, and those people have the experience. They've been doing this all over the world. And when you look at developing the infrastructure, of course, the role of the government is very important. So we have to strike a balance of who does the investment in the infrastructures and who does the investment in the mine. We have no doubt the investment in the mine are done by the private sector itself. But in the infrastructure, because it must be multi-purpose user or multi-user infrastructure, the role of the government together with the private sector in Mozambique is very important. So, but outside that, it looks to me that we are at the point of no return, that because so much money has been invested in the mines today that we have to develop those infrastructure in a way.
Nelson, I mean, do you think Mozambique is doing enough to encourage foreign investors to come here from around the world to put their money in? Do you think so?
I think so. If you look at the flights, the number of flights that Mozambique has today, they are all full booked. I don't know how did you come, but that means that you have a lot of people coming here. The level of investment that we have in oil sector means that the fiscal terms and the environment to invest is enabling. And we see not only in oil and gas sector and mine, but the other sectors as well, a lot of investment.
Agostinho, what are you picking up? I mean, you're in touch with the foreign investment community.
I'm very happy, not only about what has been said, but looking at the legislation. We said before that nowadays we're doing a good compact on it to make sure that we do the new reality of the country. But also one of the things we do almost all over the world with the government is doing exhibition conference to promote our country and of course sharing some good experience to encourage local, international investors to come to our country. And another reason is because we haven't got enough experience, not only in this area, but we have another different areas. We have got problems on the financial side, and we look at the foreign investment as a good key to promote our SMEs in the country and share some good experience on it.
Don't worry, every country in the world these days has financial problems, so don't worry about that. Mr. Caldeira, I mean, do you think there's any changes that Mozambique could make to the legislation that it's got to increase interest and returns for foreign investors?
In fact, from, let's say, 1987, the government has embarked in a vast process of legal reform. And I said we were involved directly. And all this legislation that has been changed was with the intention to improve the investment climate. Of course, there is still a lot to be done. It's necessary to have more consistency in terms of the legal reform. The state government, the institutions need to be improved. The capacity of coordination needs to be improved, but a lot has to be done. But we can say that what is being done now is in the right direction. What we normally feel is that sometimes there is a lack of one central unit that coordinates all this process of legal reform. And we can see sometimes that there is legislation that is not consistent in terms of tax aspects, in terms of labor, employment of foreign people. So sometimes there is inconsistency, but the government is doing the best in order to improve the investment climate, and that's a reality.
Antonio Manhica, I mean, you've been through every step of the way with the Moatis. It's been a very tough project to see through. It's starting to show some results. What lessons do you think this burgeoning or potential gas industry can learn from the experiences of the mining industry here?
I think that one of the most important aspects that we could be a lesson is that it's very important that the involvement of all stakeholders is done right from the beginning, and I can see that that is done in the right direction in the gas development. Because for this kind of project, mega project, you cannot do it in one side developing infrastructure, another side developing mine or oil and gas exploration or even exploitation. So you need to put everyone and call everyone and sit and discuss the best way of first of mobilizing for the funds, and also to put into place a legislation that is appropriate, which is, as Mr. Caldeira said, is something that also is being done. But you are right in a sense that it has been a long time, and the expectation is very high. From my side, I've been living, as you said, in this process. I would have been happy, very much happy, if today I was exporting 20 million of coal instead of the 4 million that I'm doing today. So I think these are lessons that are being learned in the gas and oil development.
Okay, we're running out of time now, but what I want to do, just go along the line here. Just give me your optimism or otherwise for the future of Mozambique as a major energy producing nation, starting with you, Agostinho.
Well, as I mentioned before, we will have in the next 10 years vast SMEs companies in Mozambique with a very different picture from today's one. But the colleague here spoke about the expectation. It's one of the things that we should make sure that we manage the expectation, not only as a private sector, but the communities, because otherwise they will talk about corruption, which is not there. They will talk about infrastructure development. They will need to see Mozambique on a different level of development.
Mr. Caldeira.
Yes, I am also an optimist. I feel that the country is doing what is possible to do in order to improve the investment climate. I think one of the key things will be training of people. That's one of the problems of this country, is trained people, both at government level and private sector, and of course infrastructure. Those are, in my point of view, the problems that the country is facing, but this is possible to overcome if, in fact, it's possible to have a coherent legal framework, a coordinated effort to improve all these investment climate in the country.
Antonio Manhica.
For myself, I see Mozambique, my country, being in the world map as one of the major producers of coal. Particularly, I'm talking about metallurgical and high-quality steam coal, which is what we possess more in the region. So all we have to do is, as we've been doing so, work together and try to put all the infrastructure in position so that we can carry on doing the production at the levels that have been planned, at the level that are sustainable for our development.
Nelson Ocuane.
I would like to see the natural resource as an enabler and to leverage all the socio-economic areas of the country. We need from agriculture to the higher level, projects that we have. Mozambique is the natural leader with the resources that we have, and see a combination between the natural resource, the industrial development of the country, and for the social benefit of the country.
On that optimistic note, thank you very much, Nelson Ocuane from ENH, the National Oil Company, Antonio Manhica from the Mozambique Mining Exploration Company, Mr. Jose Manuel Caldeira, Senior Partner at Caldeira, and Mr. Agostinho Vuma from CTA on behalf of Private Business. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for here in Maputo in Mozambique. For me, Chris Bishop of the CNBC Africa EMEC Debate, it's goodbye.